Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Wisconsin is here to play basketball tonight, and they brought their weather with them.
That they did. It is snowy outside.
Yes, it is. I'm getting a little bit more than we thought we were going to get.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so.
Anything happened in the sports world the last couple of days, Steve?
Let's see. I'm trying to think. What's worse, the 64 Phillies or the 2024 Eagles?
I would like to throw. I would at least like to throw in there the 2023-2024 Dallas Cowboys, but to each their own.
Again, teams that go to the Super Bowl and lose don't go back.
Mm-mm.
And now, way back when, yes, the Dallas Cowboys lost Super Bowl V, went back, won Super Bowl VI over the Dolphins. The Dolphins lost Super Bowl VI to the Cowboys, and then conversely came back, beat Washington in Super Bowl VII, then won 8 as well. But I think that, by my recollection, that's the last time a team did that, where they went back the year after. Look, the Eagles, to their credit, are a mess. So let's, they really are.
Pulling no punches today.
They're a mess.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say it any other way. Look, when they were 10-1, what did I say on the podcast? They are an 8-3 team. They're a 10-1 team that in reality is 8-3, right?
Their 8-3 parading is 10-1, whatever it was.
Right. Masquerading, I think, was the word I used. I like to use bigger words.
Ouch.
No, I actually use fairly simple words. But that's what I said at the time. And people, of course, oh, come on, you just don't like the fact that... No, I could see it. I could see it, that there's something that was off with this team, and that the first time that they lost, and a sure sign that your organization is not strong is that the first sign of a problem, you panic. Well, what was the first sign of the problem? The 49ers game. And what did they do? They changed defensive coordinators. Like, you're 10-2. Like, you're winning games. I mean, I know your defense is a play. Then, to be honest with you, down the stretch after the big change, they got worse. There's going to be a lot said about Nick Sirianni.
Already is.
But there needs to be exponentially more said about Howie Roseman. Every time I have turned around the last 2 years, I've had some Eagles fans say to me, Howie's getting it done. Look at Howie. He'd make a move. Jay got Julio Jones. Howie. That Jalen Carter stole him. Howie. I heard it over and over again. And I'm sitting there saying, I wouldn't have drafted Jalen Carter. Okay? I would not have drafted Jalen Carter.
It was the reason he fell down the boards.
Right? The reason he fell down the board is not because he can't be a good on-the-field performer. He fell down the board because off the field, he's an issue. Okay? I'm sorry. It's just a fact. And the Eagles fell into the trap, and Howie Roseman fell into the trap that too many organizations get into. Our culture is so good and so strong that we can take anybody in and we'll make them better. Au contraire, mon frere.
Yeah.
Okay? I've got one example after another of organizations who thought that, and it didn't work. And yours is the latest.
Let me point to, I believe, the team with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with none other than Antonio Brown.
Right. Right. Now, they won the Super Bowl with him, but they couldn't change him. They could. The Steelers got rid of him right when they needed to get rid of him. They looked around and said, we can't keep this guy. Now, I don't care how talented he is. He's wrecking the place. I mean, think back. When's the last time the Steelers won a playoff game? It was the Kansas City game in, 2016. What marred the locker room celebration? Okay? He is putting it out on Facebook with a whole bunch of junk, right, all over the place. Like, what are you doing? And he ruined it. Okay? That's the kind of guy. Okay, you can't keep bringing those guys in. Okay? I would rather, that's the equivalent of, I'd rather bring in a talented 4-star that I can coach than a 5-star that doesn't think anything in his life smells. Right? Hey, you can get so enamored with talent, and Carter's talented, right? But gee, once the team went south, he did nothing. The only play he was involved in on camera last night was when White, the running back, ripped off an 11-yard gain, and Carter got in his face. Like, what are you getting in his face for? Right? Why don't you, like, make some plays? Okay, flapping your yap. Ooh, I'm really impressed. If I'm the coach, you're out. Right? Oh, the Eagles, they stole Jordan Davis. I didn't like the Carter pick. I didn't like the Davis pick. Devontae Smith thought that was a fabulous trade, pick, maneuver, the whole deal. Then the Giants blew it and didn't take Micah Parsons. Right? No, I'm seriously.
Yeah, no one understands that.
I mean, I'm sitting there that night going, as soon as they made the move, I'm like, it's too bad. You know, this is great, though. The Giants going to get Micah Parsons. And they traded down and got Kadarius Toney. You wonder why, like, you have no traction. Jalen Hurts, okay, this is as a team, and it looks like Jason Kelce's going to retire, one of the best ever at that position. He's a Hall of Famer.
Probably, people said it today, he's probably revolutionized the idea of O-lineman being cool. Like, I don't think there's ever been an O-lineman or someone like that in the trenches that has been as popular as him in terms of
he's popular. There's no question. But
being
he's really
the fans.
Good, he's really good. He didn't revolutionize the position.
Helps that he's a stud.
I mean, he's just really good. I mean, guys like Kevin Mawai revolutionary, because he pulled as a center and they did things with him like that. But I mean, Kelce's he'll be in the Hall of Fame. He will not be a first ballot guy. There's when you only get 5 guys in, you can't do it.
He'll get in.
He'll get in eventually down the road. The issue he's going to have is the competition in a given year.
He's going to be 6, 7 in a given year, not 1 through 5.
Well, he'll make the top 15, and he'll gradually work his way up. I mean, that's the way it'll go. But he's a great player. Juergens will probably be his replacement. It's not like they didn't do a good job of drafting a guy like Landon Dickerson. Not they didn't do a good job of drafting a guy like Juergens.
Jordan Mailata.
Mailata's good. He's not great. He's good. I became a big DeAndre Swift fan, and this is the part that baffled me last night. Run the ball. What did they do in the first 2 plays of the game? Ran the ball, got chunks. Now we're going to throw it. Like, what are you doing? Okay? You have to ask you, okay, where was Philadelphia 2 years ago?
They were running the ball.
No, where was Philadelphia 2 years ago this week?
A championship game?
Getting shut out by Tampa in the opening round of the play. They're 9 points better now. So now you have to ask yourself whether last year was the aberration. I mean, moving forward, you have your quarterback, but he struggled. He played a lot this year like he did 2 years ago. You got a problem with A.J. Brown. You don't know what to do with him. He's another one of those talents who may be a bigger problem than he's worth. You got a great player in Smith. Goddard's a really good tight end. Last year, Gainwell and Boston Scott, they're just other guys. They're role players. They're good role players, but they're role players. What do you do with Slay? Slay's on the back end of his career now. What do you do with Bradbury, who's had a really good career? He's on the back end of his career. I mean, when your best player is Elliott.
Yeah.
All right. The Steelers defied odds getting there. I mean, they still have a quarterback problem.
What, Mason Rudolph's not the solution?
Well, no, but I'm talking about Kenny Pickett. I mean, you again, when you are doing the if you're drafted rounds 1 through 3, you have to play your way out of the league. Everybody's going to give you chances left and right, especially a first-round pick. If you're rounds 4 through 7 or a free agent, you have to play your way into the league. You have to play your way into that second contract. So Kenny Pickett's going to get all the leeway in the world to do whatever to stick with the team. But he still was no better than okay this year. I mean, this is in his own division. Joe Burrow is exponentially better. Lamar Jackson is exponentially better. We don't know what Cleveland's situation is. I loved all the backhanded stuff at Joe Flacco. Hey, guys, he was their 4th quarterback this year. The guy what was he doing? Selling insurance? He was at home?
He was the first. He said he stayed in football shape, but called teams and teams did not answer. The only team to call him back was the Browns when they had down to their 4th quarterback.
Right. I mean, DTR, Watson, all this time, as Peter King said on the show Friday. Remember Peter said? He said Watson's now into this 3rd year. He says, and they still don't even know if he's their quarterback. And then, of course, Walker, who played at Temple for Matt Rule.
P.J. Walker.
Was the other quarterback. That's their 4th quarterback. I mean, so now you have, and the Steelers are sitting there, and they don't know if they have their guy either. They don't know if they have their guy. Now, the Eagles have their guy. You got, I mean, Jalen Hurts may have been up and down, but I'll ride.
He's
with
that
him.
guy.
I'll ride with him for a while. The question whether he's going to be more Dak Prescott or more toward Patrick Mahomes, we don't know. He was the best player in the Super Bowl last year. He was. He made the biggest mistake in the game, but everybody makes mistakes. It just turned out his was like just plain dropped it. It was run back by Bolton for a touchdown. Okay. But other than that play, he was the best player on the field. Right? In a beautifully played Super Bowl, he was the best player on the field. So he's capable of that. But let me give you something. What do I always talk about as one of the keys to any game? I always, all the time, it's a very simple one. Play with the lead. What did all 6 winners have in common this weekend? They all scored first. They all played with the lead.
Get ahead, stay ahead.
Right? It's easier, especially when there's more pressure on possessions than there is in October. Okay, we got to get this one back. There's more pressure to get it back. Instead of maybe the patience, look, we got plenty of time. We're good. Right? No, you're not good. And you look at all 6 teams. They all got to the lead, played with the lead, and won. And it causes decisions to be made during the course of the game. I'm still I mean, I know they got a penalty and they put the ball on the one they thought they could push it home, but what's the value of a 2-point conversion when it's 16-9? Just take the extra point, move on, right? Because a touchdown puts me in front with an extra point. What's the difference? I mean, I realize you thought you could push at home and the whole thing, but guess who stopped it earlier in the year? They did. You're trying to do it against the team that actually stopped you at it. I mean, it's this. Those are the panic decisions where I'm acting like I'm the smartest person in the building, and you're sitting there like going, what are you doing here? The math, I mean, what's the difference between 16-11 and 16-10? How about nothing?
Yeah.
I mean, it's decisions like that where you're like too cool for school, too clever. Because I'm at the point now where I'm looking at plays going, hey, go for it, go for it. I'm sitting there, go for it all the time. I'm with the new math. But also you have to have some common sense.
Yeah.
But all those teams play with the lead. So all the teams that lost were playing catch-up, and couldn't catch anybody. All right? And that's important.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. The road teams, one road win was Green Bay, right?
Yes.
They're the only road team that won. So Green Bay goes to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore gets Houston. Tampa Bay gets Detroit in Detroit. And it was already a madhouse to begin with the other night. Imagine what it's going to be like to go to the NFC Championship game. And Buffalo gets Kansas City, so for the first time ever, Patrick Mahomes will have to play a true road game in a playoff.
Mm-hmm. I just wonder if there's going to be 2 feet of snow on the ground or not.
I don't know. I have not looked at the forecast yet.
There's always a chance, Steve. There's always a chance.
We'll see. But they all play with the lead.
Mm-hmm.
Playoff atmospheres were great. I mean, there actually were, more Tampa fans last night than Eagles fans, which I think was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of people assume that the Eagle fans would go down and take over. And that brings us to the next part. Like, one of the great myths, Lincoln Financial Field, most intimidating place. Excuse me, the Arizona Cardinals did not appear to be intimidated at all. The 49ers did not appear to be intimidated at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of people, okay, you're loud. I think you boost your team. There's a great emotion in your team, but you're not intimidating good teams.
Mm-mm.
Come on. That's bogus. I mean, how intimidated did Green Bay look by playing in Arlington? How about nothing? Mm-hmm. They acted as if they were over there at City Stadium at the high school field, right in Green Bay. Their old stadium, which is now the high school stadium, acted like they were over there throwing the ball around on a Thursday afternoon. It was like easy. So, first time you've had a 7 win.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 1-7, and you have 3 against 4.
Mm-hmm. Should be fun.
That's fine. And then on the other side, it's the top 4 seeds.
Mm-hmm.
All the 4 division winners all won. Pittsburgh's got problems only because their draft position has been
weird.
Their draft position has consistently been between 20 and 30 for a long time now. And when it's between 20 and 30, you can only hit. It's not just 20 and 30 in the first round. It's 20 and 30 every round.
Later rounds, yeah.
Right. So it's supposed to work against you.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, it caught the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it finally caught the Patriots. And so you sit there and at some point it's going to get you. But every team in the AFC North finished over 500. You don't realize that the Bengals finished 9-8.
Mm-hmm.
But a Patriots fan say to me this morning, as long as we're in front of the Jets.
That's fair. And speaking of Patriots, I want to discuss the coaching carousel. Because just so the only team currently that has hired a new coach is those Patriots. Gerard Mayo got hired. And by all senses, seems like a good hire. He's, of course, a Belichick guy. He played for the Pats for years, then became a coach, coached under him, and it makes sense they went for him. I think, hypothetically, Vrabel should have been number 1 on their list, but they stayed in-house, and we can at least understand where they're going with it. Vrabel should have been the guy, whatever. I'm looking around the league, and there currently, as things stand, are 7 openings still. Yeah. Commanders, Titans, Seahawks, Chargers, Raiders, Panthers, Falcons. And from a quick look of other teams, there are 5 others, because 2 of them have already said they're not changing coaches, that could hypothetically change coaches this offseason.
Sure.
Eagles, the Saints, the Steelers, and the Cowboys. And the Broncos are a weird one because Sean Payton's been weird. So those 5.
Well, I don't think the Eagles are going to change.
I don't think the Eagles are. The Broncos aren't.
The Broncos are not going to change. To me, the commodity out there that interests me the most besides Harbaugh, I mean, he interviewed with the Chargers yesterday, would be Mike Vrabel. Seattle and Mike Vrabel are a really good fit, I think, from 30,000 feet. And I think he can flat out coach. I think they've got too many hurt feelings along the way. They are just so petty, right? Vrabel, what was the ceremony they were doing? They did a ceremony in New England.
They did his jersey retirement or Ring of Honor, one of the two.
There was a Ring of Honor. And he was telling the fans there, hey, appreciate what you have. No, not everybody has this. Okay. And the Tennessee people were offended by that. Why are you offended by that?
Odd.
Okay? He's standing in front of the New England fans who watched the team win 6 Super Bowls in a 20-year span. Nobody wins 6 Super Bowls in 20 years. Nobody stays relevant for 20 years. So he just told the Patriots fans, appreciate what you have. Not everybody has this because not everybody has it. Right?
And now look, the Patriots don't have it anymore.
And they acted as if he was taking a shot at them.
Psychotic.
Like, what is wrong with you people? I mean, I don't understand the pettiness of stuff like that. And that's petty. And then they ended up getting rid of him, right? And supposedly the owner was said to be really put off by it. Put off by what? You appeared in one Super Bowl. You lost a half yard out. I got it. Okay? But that's been it. Okay? I realize when your dad owned the team, they won a couple of AFL championships with George Blanda. I got it. But come on. I mean, to stand in front of a group of fans yelling, cheering, and screaming and saying something great about the organization and the fan base about appreciating it, there's nothing wrong with that. Hey, gee, you know what? I think I'm going to take a shot at my organization. Really? I don't think so. How about if I just, hey, I'm throwing him in the Ring of Honor here, and you know what we've done, what happened here is beyond belief, and it is. It's hard to win one. It's hard to win one. Okay? I mean, we just talked about Philadelphia. They've won one. That city cherishes it. Okay? But they've won one. Right? Cleveland has never been. Detroit has never been. Okay? Never been. Right? Now, you know, let's face it. I mean, Houston and Jacksonville haven't either, but they're, you know, Houston came in 2002, Jacksonville in, 1995. 94, 95, right? 94, I think. So they haven't been around that long, okay? But Cleveland and Detroit have been around forever. Since the first Super Bowl was played, they were playing, okay? Like the Browns won the 64 championship. Okay, they would have played the, Buffalo Bills if they had a Super Bowl back then. Okay, Detroit hadn't been in a championship game since... Well, they played in the NFC Championship game, but I'm talking about like the NFL title game since 1957. Right? It's hard to win these things. Okay? Tennessee has never won a Super Bowl. Okay? They've won AFL championships, but they haven't won a Super Bowl. Come on.
It's crazy.
That's why I don't get, well, what do people think about this stuff?
I don't get it. And what I also don't get is I think some of the just discussions around certain teams and coaches and how it kind of works. So the 3 teams that, as we have kind of talked about, are rumored to be possibly moving on from their coaches: the Saints, the Steelers, the Cowboys. 3 organizations over the past decade or so that have done well, have made it to the playoffs, have done some things here and there, have been good overall programs. So they've had their issues, for lack of their better of. Right. It's just issues across the board. If you are, let's start with Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin. If you're guessing today, 2024-25 season, week number 1 is Mike Tomlin the head coach.
You should be.
I agree. He should be. He's good enough. I don't see why you get rid of him.
I mean, he's not in charge of personnel. he took a really strange situation and got them to 10-7 and into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Their fans were literally booing their offensive coordinator the first 4 weeks of the season because he was terrible.
Yeah,
it was a wild time early on in the season. Number 2, we'll go to my team, the Saints. Dennis Allen. If you're the Saints, if you're Mickey Loomis,
first thing I do is cut Jameis Winston.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's the one that changed the play on the running play at the end, right? If you're going to be that insubordinate, you got to go. I mean, that's insubordination, right? They told you to take a knee and whatever, and he changed the play in the huddle, and they ran and got a touchdown out of it. So what, you're the cool guy in the locker room because you got him a touchdown? Like, oh, really? Great. Good for you. But that's not what you were told to do. That's why you have a coach, and that's why you're the player.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I do is I get rid of Dennis Allen. I
didn't say he's a good guy or bad guy, but I get rid of James
No, I know.
Johnson.
I understand where you're coming from. My issue is I start with Dennis Allen, and as a Saints fan, of course, I have strong feelings on it. But I think Amy Trask, who was the former, I believe, president or high up in the Raiders organization, she said when she came in, Dennis Allen was the head coach at the time. Mm-hmm. And he had this meeting where he basically just like trashed on people and just was not a kind person. Right. And she was like, what? And then when the Jameis stuff happened, she was like, if there's one person I'm not surprised it happened to, it's Dennis, because the players don't respect him.
Right.
And it's very clear the Saints players don't. I mean, there's been issues all season with him and with Derek Carr and just crazy stuff.
Right.
And there is this weird belief with certain people that Dennis Allen is a great coach. When the Saints, when Sean Payton was let go and Dennis Allen came in, we said, okay, we'll give him a shot.
Right.
He didn't do well at the Raiders, but he's been okay with the Saints in terms of the defense. If you can bring somebody in to help on out, maybe things work.
Right.
Give him a year or two. It hasn't worked. He's been terrible. Downright terrible. And these certain...
Like Charles Barkley now.
Yeah. But these certain fans that aren't even Saints fans are like, no, he's been great. And it's like, no. He's got a losing record, and it's not even close. And he's not a good coach. And he makes terrible decisions. And he brings in players you're like, what are you doing? And he should not be the coach of the Saints moving forward. He shouldn't be. The Saints this week are back in the facility. The coaches are back this week, so a decision is expected this week. It's currently looking like he's going to be back for the next season. But as a Saints fan who sees what the reaction is on social media, it's not going to go well. If he survives into the next season, he is not going to survive the year unless he wins a Super Bowl. That is where it's at. And let's be honest, that's not going to happen with Derek Carr. So that's your feelings on the Saints. But what about the Cowboys? What do you do if you're Jerry?
Well, let's start with this. It looks like Atlanta's going to interview Bill Belichick.
They did yesterday. They interviewed Belichick. He conducted his interview because Belichick's on the table, Vrabel's on the table, and Harbaugh's on the table. It's a very strong coaching class right now.
What do I do with the Cowboys?
Burn the organization to the ground?
Well, I would not be inclined to move off Mike McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be inclined to move off Dan Quinn.
Mm-hmm. Remember when people were saying Dan Quinn should be the next coach of the next generation of people because he's great?
I understand. And they had a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have a lot of bad games during the course of the season. Especially down the stretch, didn't have a lot of bad games. Didn't have a lot of bad games at home. They picked the worst time to have a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
But they have issues, all right? Let's start with a major issue, all right? And it's a gigantic issue they have. They're secondary.
We discussed it all year.
Right? Bland, if I hear once, I've heard 1,000. But he picked off 5 passes and ran back. So I talked to my class about this. I said, ask yourself why when you're watching a Cowboys game, a lot of passes are being thrown 26's way if he's that good.
Mm-hmm. Same with Diggs. It's like
Diggs. Again, you cannot analyze the game through fantasy football.
I saw
You
somebody
can't do it.
I saw somebody make the comparison of Bland and Diggs are as good, if not better, than Darrelle Revis in his prime. No. And I sat there and laughed because of the reason you're saying, which is Revis. They were like, Revis doesn't have interceptions. Yeah, he doesn't have them because no one's throwing it to him. And if they throw it to him, either it's a pick or the receiver's going to go negative yards.
That was my point about Joey Porter Jr. last year in the draft. I always got asked the question, why doesn't he have a lot of interceptions? And I said, I'll tell you exactly to you what I said right to Joey Porter Jr.'s face. Your biggest problem on the lack of interception is nobody's throwing in your direction.
It's just, it makes no sense when people think, like stats, if you're a safety and you got a lot of interceptions, that's one thing. That means you're making good reads and it's different. But when you're a corner, you got a lot of picks. If you're Diggs and Bland in this case, you're not a good corner. You got good hands, but you're being targeted for a reason.
Now, first of all, let's give credit where credit's due. He had like 8 picks.
Yeah.
And he took 5 of them back for touchdowns. You get all the credit in the world for that. But that's 8 plays out of 100 you have to make during the course of the year. And teams went at him over and over again. Gilmore got hurt at the end. Gilmore was playing great football here. He was the best defensive back Dallas had, without question. And just watching.
He made it so you could play a safety over to help Bland and Diggs. That was what it was.
Right. And so they've got issues. Okay, their linebackers are okay. The defensive front's good, but they at the end, Lawrence and teams did a good job in Lawrence and Micah Parsons at the end of the season, keeping them out of the face of quarterbacks. I mean, so that really is an issue. They still Jordan Lewis is not a bad defensive back. I always liked him at Michigan. I thought he was a good player. And I think he's had a decent NFL career. Offensively, I mean, they may lose one of those linemen in free agency. It's always been a good offensive line. But you do have to ask yourself over and over again about Dak Prescott, that in the biggest moments, why is it you're still not sure how he's going to perform? I mean, in the biggest moments, I always knew whether he was playing, whether you're for him or against him, you knew how Roger Staubach was going to play in the biggest moments. You knew in the biggest moments how Kenny Stabler was going to play. You knew in the biggest moments how Joe Montana was going to play.
Tom Brady.
You knew how Tom Brady in the biggest moments was going to play. Right? With Dak, I still don't know in the biggest moment how he's going to play. It could be terrific, or it could be, you got to be kidding me. I mean, the interception run back for a touchdown where he tried to force one in because he had to get C.D. Lamb going. Who cares about getting C.D. Lamb going? How about getting your team going? Right? And it was a pick six. It's just a bad read all the way through. It's not. Is it C.D. Lamb's fault? No, that's Dak Prescott's fault. I mean, why are you doing that? You've been around the block over and over again. The game should be going at 5 miles an hour for you at this stage of your career. And it's not like you're not talented. He has the ability to do great things in great moments, and he has the ability to fall down in great moments. And that's why you don't know with him, where is he right now? Where you just know at the end of a game or an end of a half, oh, we're fine, he'll deliver here. Like, you're still, if you're a Cowboys fan, I hope he does well. Like with Brady, you knew. With Montana, you knew. I know I'm talking about the upper echelon.
But like you knew they were going to come through and you needed them to.
With Staubach, you knew. There's a whole bunch of guys that you knew at the end. Now, but there are other guys too.
You go down to the next tier of the Ben Roethlisbergers, Drew Brees. You knew they'd like get the job done. Right.
And then there's some guys who had to do it because they created it. And you're like, what do you mean by that? Nobody ever. I always love he's led 22 fourth quarter comebacks. Has anybody sat down and analyzed how the quarterback put them into that spot where they were behind to begin with and he had to bring them back?
Yeah.
Where's that stat? I thought we got next gen anything. I mean, we already know he's running 17.2 miles an hour. Yeah, but how did the quarterback put them in a spot where he had to bring them back?
There's only one time I've ever seen a quarterback do that where it wasn't the quarterback's fault. Only one situation. And it's a personal one to me. It's the Saints. When their defense was literally the worst in NFL history, and Breeze led like 7 fourth quarter comebacks because they had to win the game 55-49 or something ridiculous. And it's like, well, Drew Brees had to lead that comeback because he didn't do well. No, the guy had 400 yards passing. He did great. His defense sucked.
Yeah, this is something Jack and I have talked about. Jack Ham and I have talked about it. Oh, we got stats for 1,000 things, and Jack will say, yeah. He says there are teams that tried to leave 4-quarter comebacks against us. The big reason that they were behind was them. I said, yeah, I know.
What happened to Tony Pollard this season? Going into this year, it was like, oh my gosh, Pollard's going to be the next big thing. Zeke's gone. Did nothing.
Okay, that's a great question. And here's the answer to it. Some guys excel when they are spot players, where they can come in, use their specific skill set to make something terrific happen. And then the dirty work is done by somebody else. And then, boom, then you come in and you can make things happen because the other team got used to the dirty work type of play, Zeke Elliott in this case. And then he'd come in and go, a completely change of pace. When you have to be the back that's out there every single play and you're expected to do both the glory stuff and the dirty work, it takes a toll on you. And I think he was also coming off an injury last year too, right? He got hurt. But that's part of it. Some guys, it's just like certain coaches are meant to be assistant coaches and coordinators and not head coaches. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay? Well, same thing with certain players that are situational spot players that can ignite an entire team. They're meant to be that, but not the every down guy. And I don't think he's the every down guy. That would be.
He's a good 2-back tandem.
Yes.
Great.
He's the kind of guy that situationally can lift an entire team, but I can't get. It's not just getting 4 quarters out of him. It's like I can't do this an entire month with him. Right? And that's not knocking him. He has been an all-star in his role. I mean, and that's important on any team to have guys who may not be the star, but they're all-stars in their role. Let's keep with the Cowboy. Cooks, I think, who's been with a multitude of teams, is an all-star in his role. Right? He's not CeeDee Lamb. But guess what? Ferguson, the tight end, I think is an all-star in his role. He's not CeeDee Lamb. Not expected to be. But, that's the way Pollard was. He was an all-star in his role, had his role expanded, but your capabilities are in this box, and as soon as you stray outside your capabilities, you get into an area that's not comfortable. I think that's where he might be in all of this. And there are a lot of guys that fall into that category. The league has only so many stars along the way. I think that a guy like Gibbs at Detroit has been tremendously helped by the fact that David Montgomery is there.
He's got an every down back that can go and do it if he needs to, and so they can swap him out one by one.
David Montgomery pounds the ball. He's quick enough, but he's a between the tackles guy. Then you bring this guy in. He doesn't have to go on and take the pounding for 4 quarters. They got Montgomery to do that. And Gibbs can come in. He's got that speed. He's got the jets, the whole deal. Guys like McCaffrey are special. There's no question about that.
Derrick Henry, there's very few that can do every down, just go in and do it.
You start to wear down. You can see Derrick Henry starting to wear down a little bit. It's a lot of pounding over a long period of time. Plus, his offensive line is not the same as it was at one point.
But there are very few guys who do it. Even some of the
Achane and
Mostert and the 17 million guys that are like 4.3 speed guys.
You look at Pacheco. Okay, now they got Clyde Edwards-Helaire in there. McKinnon's not coming back, is he?
I don't believe so.
Because McKinnon is a really good guy to have.
He's awesome.
Again, like Philadelphia put together such a poor defensive performance in the Super Bowl. Like there's certain things where I'll give you one play that tells you everything about where their mentality was, besides the fact they kept getting beat in the same play.
Yeah.
Kansas City lined up on a 3rd down and short. This is in the Super Bowl. The deep back was Sky Moore, and the fullback was McKinnon in a broken eye. I'm sitting at home going, well, they're going to give it to McKinnon here in an inside handoff.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to give the ball to Sky Moore.
No. He was a rookie. They're not going to give it.
But it's a wide receiver playing tailback, okay? No. The running back is up here. They gave it to him, and he got 10, 12 yards, got a first down. I'm thinking, how can you not read that? How can't you read that?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm sitting at home, I'm going, I never saw Kansas City get into that formation. The first thing I thought was they're going to give McKinnon the ball. Like, this is a complete setup here.
I have one last question for you in terms of coaching stuff. Bill Belichick, you mentioned his name earlier.
I heard of him.
Yeah, I think he's won some things at some point or another. I don't know when, I don't know with what team. Yeah. But who does he end up with next? You already said you think Vrabel in Seattle makes sense, but Belichick, him and Harbaugh and Vrabel.
I'm really surprised New England didn't hire Vrabel. And it had nothing to do with Gerard Mayo. It's
just it felt perfect. Right. It felt like the fit.
Right. I don't know where Belichick ends up. He's got to end up someplace because there's going to be somebody that's going to be absolutely enamored with the fact that, this guy who has been a part of 8 Super Bowl winning teams.
Heck of a coach.
People forget he was the defensive coordinator of 2 giant Super Bowl teams, and was, his game plan is in the Hall of Fame for the Bills game, right when he was with the Giants. Did I explain this last week? Okay. This is the genius of a guy. Now, you have to have the personnel to pull it off. So just don't ever for a second think you don't have the personnel to pull it off. So I always love when I hear, well, he won nothing with Brady. Like, okay, how many games did Brady win because Belichick's defenses kept them in the game for them to win the game?
They beat the Rams, 10-3. Yeah. Because the defense was so ridiculously good that one of the best offenses in the NFL, the second best that season, I know who was the best, because they held them to 3 points.
Yeah. I mean, I love the simplicity of it. It's like, please, everybody, just, okay, one works well with the other.
Yeah, they were like, Brady won the Super Bowl. Okay. No, he put up 10 points.
So now he's got the Giants. He's got Leonard Marshall. He's got Harry Carson. He has Carl Banks. He has Lawrence Taylor.
One of the greatest players of all time.
All right. Okay, so he's got great personnel. All right. But in that game against Buffalo, with that incredible offense, Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, that offensive line. He played 2 down linemen. And just kind of like scattered everybody else around the line of scrimmage. Why?
Because
he was trying to bait Buffalo into running the ball. Now, Buffalo can run the ball. Thurman Thomas had a big game. He rushed for over 100 yards in that game against the Giants. But 2 things happened in that, okay? When you're running the ball, what's the clock doing?
Tick, tick, ticking.
It's shortening the game. And then the Giants offensively made it pay off in that opening drive of the third quarter where they went 9 minutes. And finally Otis Anderson was able to knock it home a 9-minute drive. But the Giants on the offensive side, by the way, Hostetler played, and by the way, Otis Anderson played in that offensive line, and the fact that he baited them into running the ball and not throwing it shortened the game. Buffalo didn't have possessions. Now, by about 18 inches, 2 feet, they survived. But it's that kind of game plan. He had Everson Walls was one of his corners who was really good on that Giants team after playing some great years with Dallas. They were able to squeeze another year or two out of him with the Giants. But the guy's a brilliant mind, and he has in his library more history of football books than anybody. And he was asked by somebody about that. He said, it's kind of neat. He says, there's going to be some book somewhere that has my name mentioned in it. That's kind of cool.
He's a football guy. And watching him, I think during the NFL 100 was one of the coolest things.
He was so good at that.
Him talking about Ed Reed it's a very iconic video now, but it's one of the coolest things ever. Because as someone who grew up in New England, I didn't like the Patriots. I despised them because they kept winning. My friends were loving it, and I hated life. But seeing him just so excited to talk about a play was so cool. Where he was like, the way you bait Peyton Manning by knowing he knows what you're going to do, but you know what he knows you're going to do by knowing what he's going to try and do to that.
Yep.
And then just the way Ed Reed does it, and he's talking through this play, and then Ed Reed picks it off. He's like, I've never seen anything like that. And just the way he dissects it and the way he's smiling. Like normally Belichick's this, wearing his cutoff hoodie, saying nothing.
Well, that's because he's being asked about questions about the game and what. But if you ask him a question that's really like he personally is interested in,
he's a football guy.
You're going to be there for a long time listening to the answer. That's I don't know him. I've never met him. Bill O'Brien was going to bring him in to the coaches clinic here at Penn State, but then Bill took the Texans job, and so Bill Belichick didn't come. That one I would have gone to.
Yeah.
But these guys face great pressure every week. There's only 32 of them. College football, there's only, I don't know, what's the new number with
a lot.
Power 5 and 65, whatever it is. Maybe it's up to 69 or 70 now because of the
18 and
Pac-12's gone, so I guess it's actually less than that now. Let's see. Let's just do a quick analysis of that. You got 18 in the Big Ten, 16, so that's 34 in the SEC. You've got 16 now in the Big 12,
50.
So that's 50, and you've got
how many in the ACC?
16,
14,
15. No, they've
say there's 16 currently.
Yeah, but they added SMU, Stanford, and Cal.
There's 16. They'll go down to 15 if Florida State leaves, I think.
But they'll still be one of the group.
So 65, 66. We'll just go there.
Add Notre Dame in there too.
Yeah.
So there are only 66 of those guys. It is interesting, and this is not, please, it is not political. Don't. Okay, we're staying away from stuff like that because we want to stay in our lane. But a head football coach has to do more interviews and more press conferences during the course of the week than the president of the United States about a football game, about a basketball game. They have to do more than the president does, talking about the country, world affairs, right? And so after a while, when you've done this for 24 years, do you want to deal with Dan Shaughnessy's question from the Boston Globe again? Right? Like you're like, but then if you're in a casual conversation when you say, hey, Bill, let me ask you something. Okay. In college, what made Roger Staubach just different and special in terms of approach at Navy? Because, I mean, he was the ball boy at Navy because his dad was a coach there. He'd go off on that thing for an hour about Staubach and everything he did and the kind of guy he was. Right? Now, I've never met Staubach. Never have. Never been in the same room. But I'm great friends with Bud Tallman, who in turn is also great friends with Roger Staubach because Bud was the sports information director at Navy when Roger won the Heisman Trophy. And the people I've talked to about him can't say enough great things about him. If we were to sit Belichick down and ask him something like that, but people don't want to know the history of anything now, it seems. History is the greatest teacher you have. You see the shotgun now. Everybody thinks Tom Landry invented the shotgun with the Cowboys. The San Francisco 49ers ran the shotgun back in the 50s with Y.A. Tittle. There's other quarterbacks they had. It may have been Jordan. Was it George Myra, maybe? Back then, Billy Kilmer, right? But they ran the shotgun back then, right? And before that, the wing T had the receiver of the ball standing back of the line of scrimmage, not under center. Right? History is the greatest teacher going, and we'll hear. That's the first time 2 tight ends have caught a touchdown in a playoff game. Like, okay, well, that's fine. I guess that's historical. I'm not feeling it. It's kind of. I feel like today we hear about what history is and it's forced. Right? It's an historical win. You're like, I can be the judge of that.
Yeah. Like my face is a different person. He doesn't count.
Oh my God. Chamberlain.
Obscure record you could think of.
It was. The strange thing about Chamberlain is that everybody just thinks he dunked all the time. And he had moves around the basket, right? And up and unders and finger rolls. It was unbelievable.
He's the first 50, 25, and 17 games since Wilt. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm not surprised by that.
You look at the top 50 scoring games of all time. How many does he have? 72 in a game. Oh, Kobe had 72 all time. It's not even the team record. Actually, no. Wilt had his 100 with Philadelphia, but still, come on. Those are great games. Jordan had 63 in a playoff game. Okay, well, guess what? So did Elgin Baylor.
Yeah. To be exact, out of the top 7, we'll go that because at 8 it gets to like double digits.
Sure.
Out of the top 7, only 2 other players are in that list not named Wilt Chamberlain. Because David Thompson at 73 and Kobe at 81.
David Thompson.
That's it.
David Thompson was Jordan before Jordan. And what derailed him along the way was obviously outside influences, and he had to overcome some of those. But David Thompson was a great player.
I'm going to ask you real quick. Can you name me, fun trivia question, there are 2 teams out of that top 7, each got on that list twice in terms of being scored against. Against. The players out of the top 7, 2 teams got hit twice for 72-point-plus games. Can you tell me what 2 teams in the NBA they were?
The Knicks.
The Knicks got hit with Wilt's 100-point and Wilt was 73 the same year, by the way.
And this may be strange. The San Antonio Spurs.
Don't think too hard about it.
Really? No, go ahead.
The Lakers.
Oh, the Lakers.
Lakers got hit with Wilt with 78 and Wilt with 72.
Okay.
Fun trivia.
Wow. But history's the greatest teacher, and we don't teach with history anymore. We're seeing the greatest athletes ever. They're in better condition. Yet, despite being in better condition, name the only rush defensive end that played every down this season.
This season, every down defensive end.
It's one of the top pass rushers in the game.
Why am I blanking on this? I know Cam Jordan got close. He missed 1 game.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. If a guy's hurt, injured, I get that.
Who?
Max Crosby of the Raiders. The only one. And one of my biggest complaints that I have about today's athlete is I'll be seeing a key sequence in the game. At least I deem it to be a key sequence. And T.J. Watt and Nick Bosa are on the sideline. I'm like, what are you doing? I need you out there. What, you need a blow now? Really? You need, what? No. I need you out there now. You at 75% is way better than the guy I put in for you.
Yeah.
See, I'm baffled by how stuff like that is done today. I'll look over to key sequence, and Aaron Donald's not in the game. Why? How many plays was Lawrence Taylor taking off? How about none? Guys didn't take plays off. How many plays do you think Fred Dean took off? Hey, come on. It says, I see stuff like this today. It's like, well, we got to make sure they're at peak, whatever, and we know what the computer, like, here's the computer thing. I got 2 eyes. He's better than that guy. Put him in. Right? Guess what? He makes the play here. We're off the field. He's getting all the rest he wants. Okay? It's like, I don't get it. I don't get that today. That bugs me when I'm watching games, and what I think is a key sequence in a third or a fourth quarter where it's like you just know this is critical, and your guys aren't out there. One other note on the Eagles. You know who their best players were last night?
Not named Jake Elliott?
Yeah, besides Elliott. I mean, Elliott's always good. But Fletcher Cox and Graham.
The guys who have been there since they were
the 2
20.
oldest guys out there, most experienced guys, and I realize they're being spotted now. I've got that. But they were the best guys they had. I'll never forget, Penn State went in 2009 and played Michigan and beat them 35-10. Graham Zug caught 3 touchdown passes, and, Penn State just took them apart. And I remember in the pregame show, there were 2 things we emphasized in the pregame show. One was that Michigan did a great job and had scored on its opening drive of every game that season. And they scored in their opening drive in this game. And then didn't score the rest of the day. They didn't score, right? And I said, defensively, that's not the same Michigan team we've seen, but boy, this Graham guy is tremendous. Right? Well, Graham didn't have a great game that day against Penn State because Penn State just took him apart. But you could just see on the videos how good he was. So it was no surprise to Jack or myself that this guy had a long, long career in the NFL, because back when Michigan was he stood out. He was an easy first team pick when he was at Michigan. I don't know whether he's at the end of the line. I don't know if Fletcher Cox is at the end of the line. Jason Kelce says he is. That's a lot of leadership in that locker room you're losing when you have an immature football team.
I just, on the guys who are just really good at what they do thing, I remember Aaron Donald coming out of college, coming out of Pitt.
I praised him at Pitt left and right.
Yeah. Everyone was like, he's great, but he's undersized. It's like, it doesn't matter. The dude's going to be great, and everyone said it. Yeah. They took him 13th, and that might be one of the best 13th overall picks to ever happen in NFL history. He's literally been to the Pro Bowl every single year he's been in the NFL, because he's that guy.
Larry Fitzgerald, what's his 40 time?
It was like 4.5, I think. He wasn't the fastest guy in the world.
4.63. Jerry Rice.
4.57.
Like 4.6. I know I told this story last week, but I'll quickly retell it here in the final minutes. When Jack and I went to practice back and forth with the team, we were on bus 4, and that's the defensive players' bus. So we'd be sitting in the last row, and so the players were talking to Jack about the draft. And Jack said, geez, when I played, we'd play the bowl game. He says, and then I played in a couple of all-star games, played in the Hula Bowl, and he played in the Japan Bowl or something like that. And his parents, by the way, went to everything. His parents went to every game, including the all-star games. He said to me, he says, Steve, I don't know. He says, how much my scholarship was. He says, but just to travel, I think they overspent beyond what the scholarship was. He says, and then they had the draft a month later. And the players were like, what? No, again, it's what you're used to, what you know. Okay? What do you mean? There's no combine, no workout, no pro day or anything? He says, no. He said, we just got drafted. They just watched us in the all-star games. They sent some scouts to watch us at games, and they looked at video. Well, you know what you were finding out on video?
Who was actually good?
Who actually knew how to play football. You have the best athletes, no question. These are the best conditioned athletes the NFL's ever had. Baseball, hockey, basketball, best ever. Best conditioned, you name it. Let's give where credit is due. But the percentage of those who really know how to play the game that they're playing, I have doubts about how high the percentage is.
It's fair.
Right? If I have a guy who's a great athlete that knows the game, Michael Jordan,
LeBron.
Wow. That's why they're wow. Wow.
Wow, Steve. Wow is correct.
You know, I mean, that, like,
yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Right.
I want to discuss more amazing athletes tomorrow here on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.